Stitch number 22 is the interlaced running stitch, where there's lots of room to play with different colors. I don't know if you can tell, but the running stitch is actually a pink color, but it disappears a little bit next to the orange one. Maybe I should have used the darker pink in this one, but never mind. And here's another example where you can see the running stitches a bit better. I think it's a really fun effect. So let's try it. On the template I have drawn one side with the running stitches. It helps to make them evenly spaced to get a nice pattern, but you can just wing it if you want. So just if you want to use this, just copy the same distances on the right side. You don't have to draw these circles, that's just the shape that the stitch makes, just to give you an idea what it would look like. So you do a line of running stitches. When I'm doing running stitch in a hoop, I do them one at a time, but if I was stitching without a hoop, then I find it easier to pick up a few stitches with the needle at a time. But that's not as convenient when you're working in a hoop, because you don't have the movability of the fabric in the same way as you do without the hoop. So let's just do a line here of running stitch, which is just a line of simple stitches running after each other, I guess. So then at one end of the line of running stitch, you come up just at the top of one of the first running stitch, and then you pass the needle under that first stitch like that. And then you pass it from the same side under the next running stitch, so I've come from under here, and still on the same side of the line of stitching I pass my needle under the next stitch, and then you keep going like that, back and forth. And then when you come to the end of the line, insert the needle back down just to the side of the last stitch. And then you start again, but from the other side of the line of running stitches. So you come up on the left in this case and slide the needle under the first stitch, and then from the same side of the running stitch pass it under the next stitch, and then pass it on the next one again, and you keep going like that until you get to the end. So this is where you could use a second color for the second pass of the interlacing thread, but in this case I'm just using one. So again, now I get to the last stitch in my row of running stitches, so I'm just going to pass the needle back down, basically under the running stitch. So now I have this nice row of interlaced running stitch. So these stitches are a bit more elongated than they are here. If you place them closer together, the running stitches, you will get more of a curve on the interlaced thread. So let's do one on the sampler. So if you notice, the running stitches are not right on the lines of the V, because you want to make room for the loops of the interlacing stitching. For this stitch, make sure that you have enough thread to do a pass of the interlacing. You can stop and start if you need to, but it's just easiest to be able to do a whole row or column, I guess it is. So I've chosen a very subtle look for my V here, with the bright yellow running stitch, but I'm using a variegated yellow for the interlacing. So let's see how that looks. So I come up at the top of my running stitches here, and then I pass the needle under the first stitch, and then I go back in the same direction under the next stitch and come back under the next one, be careful not to pull the thread too tight. You want to keep the little loops, otherwise it will just look like a thick line of stitching. So keep the tension nice and loose. So again, I'm at the end of my line of stitch, or running stitch. So I pass the needle down, and then I come back up on the other side of the first running stitch. Pass the needle under the first stitch, and then under the next one, and the next one going in the opposite direction. And I keep going back and forth until I get to the last one, and then I insert the needle back down under the fabric. So yes, this is a very subtle look, but I quite like it. I look forward to see how it builds up. The tutorial you have just watched is part of a series of 31 stitch tutorials that I have made to go along with the pattern for this embroidery stitch sampler. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you want to check out the pattern, you can find the link in the description. And whatever you're making, happy stitching.